Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're doing your reading here. Fourth grade, this is the four different concepts that we're looking at for reading today. We have summarize, sequence, expository text, and antonyms. So, sorry about the shadows. I don't know why they're so strong this morning, but I'll kind of move the board to be in the center of that. All right, so first of all, we have summarize. This is on page 356. Summarize means to retell key ideas and details in your own words. And remember, the idea here is just the key words, or the key ideas and details. In the reading that you did about the microscope and the snowflake, they gave us a summary of it by saying William Bentley was the first person to get close-up pictures of snowflakes. He used a camera attached to a microscope. His photographs showed each snowflake is unique. We kept the most important pieces there, and it was told in our own words, not word for word from the story. Okay? That's important, especially when we do things like our research reports. We always do that where we summarize it and not just write down exactly what is written in the book, so that we don't plagiarize things or write somebody else's words and call it our own. That's what plagiarizing is. If you were summarizing things about the Ben Franklin story that you had, you might say that Ben Franklin had many great ideas, but his best idea that he would be, that helped the most people would be the lightning rod, or something to that effect, where you're talking about the story and you just give a summary of that. Okay? There'll be different pieces of that you're going to look at in your workbooks, and we'll talk about that when we come to the workbook. All right, sequence, a text structure. This is the next page there. A sequence is considered a text structure. It is a way that it's organized. It's a structure, and the way it's organized, that's what a structure would be. And they use the words like first, next, then. So when you have a text, and especially an expository text, when you're writing about things, you'll see that they say first, people thought that the earth was flat, then they learned more about things as they had more technology, or next, finally, people realized that the earth was round. That type of thing is a sequence. It goes from the first thoughts to the current thoughts, and that's kind of how we go with a sequence. If you look on 357, they give you an example from Your World Up Close. First, the fruit looks fresh. After a few days, it softens, and mold appears. More days go by, and the fruit is covered in mold. So they kind of give you a little bit of that idea in sequencing, what it might be like to see things in a sequence situation. Okay. Excuse me. The next one is an expository text. An expository text, there's two pieces that we look at for an expository text. It gives facts and information, and which means it's a truthful thing. It gives facts. Then the text features are photos and captions. Photos and captions, photos, pictures taken, not drawings, but photos, excuse me, photos that are drawn, and then, or not drawn, like photographs that you would take with a camera. And then captions. The captions usually are found underneath or near to it, or sometimes on top of it, and they tell us more about what that picture is and adds information to our topic. So the photo is there not just to look cool, but it's there to give us more information. And then that caption can also help me to understand more information as well by reading that caption. It's going to give us more information about it. Both of those are helpful for an expository text. In fact, most expository texts will have photographs to help you to understand it better. All right, and then your fourth one is antonyms. Antonyms are the opposite. We've said that in spelling in English before. For example, big is an antonym to small. In our reading vocabulary strategies, we try and look for those within a sentence that can help us to understand what a word means by looking for the opposites. In your book on page 359, it says the sugar crystal on the left may look huge, but the word micro means small. We are seeing a small part of a sugar crystal up close. I really like that picture. I think it's a really cool picture. I would have never thought that a sugar crystal would look like that. But lots of fun thing when you read expository text, you learn new things, right? Okay, antonym. Besides that, I gave an example here too. Because his hand was gigantic, the basketball seemed tiny. Truth for Michael Jordan. His hand is so big, the basketball just seemed like it was this tiny item in his hand, like he could palm that basketball no problem. So because his hand was gigantic, the basketball seemed tiny. The opposite then, or the antonym of gigantic, would be tiny, and that would help me to understand that gigantic would mean huge if a basketball seemed tiny. Excuse me. All right, so let's go over your workbook pages, and that'll help you hopefully with today. So if we look at our workbook pages, let's look at the one that starts about summarizing. You read pages 233 and 234, and then the questions start on 235. So let's look at those questions there. What did Sir William Herschel discover in 1858? So go back, figure out what he discovered, or what did he notice, and write that down in there. According to the text, what was the next discovery after Herschel's? So Herschel made a discovery, and then somebody else did something, and you're going to tell me what that person did, or what that person discovered. And then number 3, how do you know that the information in the text is presented in time order? How do you know that they told you about the first thing first and the second thing second? What little clues do you have there? Or what evidence do you have there? Okay. In the next one, let's look at page 236. 236, you have a short article there. How do you know this is an expository text? So what does it have that you see over here, excuse me, as what I wrote about over on our box here? What does it have in there that tells you that it's an expository text? Why isn't it a fantasy text? Why isn't it a sci-fi text? How do you know it's an expository text? What's unique to an expository text? What text feature or features does this text include? So what are the text features? And we went over that already. What does the photograph show, and how does it add to the text? What do you learn from the photograph? And then number 4, what information does the caption give you? So when you look at the caption underneath that picture or underneath that photograph, what does it tell you about? What is it talking about? Okay. And then finally on 237, you have words 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the left, and then column 2 gives you an antonym to that. Instead of writing your lines, just write your letter next to the number. So identical If you think identical is F, then you'd write F next to identical. If you think it's C, then you write C next to identical. Okay? That type of thing. And then on the bottom, 1, 2, and 3, rewrite each sentence using an antonym for the underlined word. So we stayed to watch the entire movie. So if you didn't stay to watch the entire movie, what's the opposite of the entire movie? And you'd rewrite the sentence using that for number 1. Same with 2, same with 3, and write them in a complete sentence. Okay, that is your work for your workbook, and hopefully that helps.